This is an extract from the Leader Coronavirus Daily podcast by the Evening Standard and hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for it on your podcast provider.
It's been a long old drought for many lockdown solos, starved of any physical contact at all for the best part of 3 months. We even lost a key sage figure early on who advised strict measures for solos in lockdown after he couldn't keep to the rules himself. But this is all about to change, with news a support bubble will introduce singles to the company of another from Saturday. But are they a little bit late to the party? Holland's intelligent lockdown let singles find what they called a sex buddy back in early May. There are critics who call it a high-risk strategy, but does it work? Dutch journalist Linda Duits is one of those who campaigned for singles to have a bit of company, and she's with me now. Linda, it feels a little bit ridiculous that people can go about 3 months without touching anyone. How did you feel when those rules were enforced in Holland?
So at first, when they were brought in, I actually thought it was not that bad, and take one for the team, and of course we can do this, which was also felt by other people that were single as well. It's okay, to go without sex for a couple of weeks. But as the crisis prolonged and as it was unclear how long the situation was going to last, our prime minister talked about a new normal, or the 1.5 meter society. Things got a little tense, because then I realized maybe it's going to be indeed months before I touch someone again, or be touched, or have sex with somebody. There was a clear need to have better rules. So taken from that sort of framework, I was thinking, what can we do? And I wrote an op-ed piece about it, also arguing that sex is a human right, in the sense that the World Health Organization acknowledges sexual rights, deems them very important, and it also means that the government should not prevent people from having a fulfilling sex life. And it was quite successful in a sense. The rules actually got changed. This, of course, was not just due to me. There was also a lobby from sexual health organizations going on.
You say it's against human rights, but it does feel a little bit like that. It's almost like a form of torture, losing that human connection.
It's not just about the sex, right? It's also about touch. And so I know a lot of people that hadn't been touched in weeks, and they really started to feel the consequences from that. So we know from research that this is really important for human beings. There's also loads of studies done about positive effects, which also has to do with ethics, right? It's very difficult to get ethical approval for a study in which you withhold touch from people. So we know the positive effects from that clearly from loads of research. It's not just a luxury, right? It's not just something extra. It's really a basic human need to be touched, to be intimate with people. And I think a lot of people during Corona for the first time realized how important that was, and also how many people we touch in daily life, right? In our little interactions that we have with people.
When these restrictions get removed, if there isn't a situation where singles are allowed, there's going to be basically a frenzy, isn't there, of people wanting to interact.
Yeah.
How can we safely go about reintroducing this kind of support bubble that starts this weekend for us in England?
Yeah, so what I think is very important, which is always important when it comes down to sex and touching, is communication. So you should be very clear about who you're seeing to the person that is your chosen one, sort of, so to speak. So who else are you seeing? Are you keeping your distance? Are you traveling with public transport, for instance? So really discuss what other risks you're taking in life. What is your relationship going to entail? Are you just going to hug and touch each other, or is it going to involve sex as well? How often do you want to see each other? So really communicate openly about these things. And that was also the advice that our own RIVM, so our own Centers for Disease Control, gave us. People are going to have sex. how can we make sure that they do it as safe as possible? And that's really always the policy of the organizations here that provide public sex education as well. But also, start from the reality that people are going to want to have sex. And you can ask them to hold that in for a couple of weeks. But other than that, people are just gonna rebel against you. And then you're, as we say in Dutch, much further away from home.
Search for the Leader Coronavirus Daily on any podcast provider to hear more from the podcast.